See, this is how I know I'm not cut out for the world of Dark Gathering, because honestly, episodes like these make me truly say, like, wait a second, are we the baddies? Because here's the thing, I do understand we need powerful spirits in order to deal with very bad evils that are out in the world. But at the same time, I do have to question if maybe leaving the fate of the world in the hands of a psychotic child isn't really the smartest thing to do, because here's the thing, I do get it. The idea that, okay, this little boy has done a lot of murders. Yes. But we also have to remember that was a spirit. The actual version of him when he was alive was a tortured child who was put through such horrifying things. This prostitute, the hands that she was dealt. Why do they need to be forced into a stuffed animal and used for a psychotic game of Pokemon when I'm just like, let these mofos rest in peace, bro? Like, it felt so manipulative. When she was like holding the stuffed animal up to this boy being like, listen, I can't guarantee you that you can just eat whoever, but I'll give you some good food. Just trust me. Come on into this stuffed animal. Yeah, you're a bad boy. You killed, but you know what? I'll give you a little sympathy. And I'm like, really? Am I the only one feeling like a little guilty about this shit, man? Like, I get, like, we need these spirits in order to deal with this nonsense, but fuck me. Full live reaction to this Dark Gathering episode over on my Patreon if you want to see my full thoughts on this episode. God damn. Dark Pokemon, Twisted Pokemon just keeps getting better. We better get a season 2 someday, that's all I'm saying. I'm glad we still have a few more episodes, but we better get a season 2, that's all I'm saying. So we get the aftermath and the final confrontation with this Pokemon battle, and trainers are getting sideswiped in the distance there. It was intense, but I have to say, like, I did really like where they went in terms of the slower pace stuff, like the Shami stuff and just the fact of the sister and just like what they're building up with there. But honestly, the creepiness of the end of the episode, I don't think I'm ready for next week's episode. I think in general, dolls creep me out, like especially like porcelain dolls, and the idea of like any sort of horror series, whether it's like even simple Goosebumps stuff back in the day, man, like just the idea that these apparently kids like were creeping around the corner and these cops go to investigate, and just the idea of like, give me your head. I legitimately went from saying, you know what, I'm not really spooked to this episode. I'm like, yeah, there's some disturbing aspects, and I think what we did to this kid is wrong. But as soon as like we turn around that corner, the hairs on my arm stood up, like legitimately the whole damn arm stood up, and I was just like, and then the sound effects, I always say it, listen to this show with headphones on. The way these things talk to us, I feel like it's gonna give me nightmares someday. Like, I truly do. Like, it's just, if you watch an episode like this before bed, and the last thing you hear, especially if you're listening with headphones, is these things talk to us, you're gonna have nightmares. That's all you're gonna have goddamn screaming nightmares. But what a way to take out the police force, man. Like, no wonder they had to cover that up, because how in the hell are you gonna rationally explain to the general public that like 6 or 7 of your officers, this happened to them? They ain't gonna trust you. Yeah, I'd be covering that up too. I'm not gonna lie. I can't even blame them for wanting to cover that shit up. But the actual fight we got between pretty much Digimon looking boy and Fire from Hell girl was honestly pretty cool. The big thing that really made him have a disadvantage was the rapid regeneration. So once the 3 things were kind of ignited for her, she just had more regeneration than he did. I mean, it's kind of funny, and I feel bad laughing, especially because of what the meatballs are. But you gotta admit, it is a little chaotic, the fact that he like touches like a bunch of the like spirits or the bodies around, and like he makes like a big ass plate of meatballs, and then she comes in and lights that bitch on fire. And I'm like, oh man, he's like gonna be so pissed those meatballs are overcooked. But you have to admit, like, it was pretty intense. It really was. And I think I was worried myself. Not that she couldn't win, like I was pretty convinced that she would end up beating the boy, and then what would end up happening was we would then have to fight her in order to seal her back up. Because if we remember in the previous episode, that was something that Yayo pointed out, was that like, hey, like once she no longer has someone to focus on, she will target us. So I'm thinking, god damn it, Keiro, just get your full body cast ready because you're gonna need it. But it turns out because they've already like captured her before, they just had to reseal up the thing that she was in. I was thinking like when she gave him the stuff, I was like, oh hey, go run up to her and start chaining her up. And I'm like, you can't be serious. Luckily, it was a lot better than that. But I think it's not even just the fact of like feeling bad about the 2 spirits that we were having fight each other. It's the fact that if we rewind back to when we made that deal with the ghost, who said like, hey, if we're ever in need, we can summon her help. It's like calling out a legendary Pokemon. But man, is it messed up. the fact that her help comes with her being beheaded, and the fact that we just are like, hey, don't worry, the next time we see you, we'll give you some great sake. It'll make it all better. And she's like, that seems like a fair trade. You summon my help to have my head cut off, and I'll get a nice drink. That seems like a fair trade. And I'm like, please tell me I'm not the only one feeling a little goddamn dirty that this is how we treat our allies in the world of Dark Gathering. I don't care if it is just the way the bitch flows. At the end of the day, it be messed up. And I mean, just, you gotta love the fact that you just have to casually call up the police and say, oh, hey bros, yeah, we just got a bunch of dead bodies in the river. Nah, they're not mannequins. And then they actually show up and they think, okay, 6-year-old, 8-year-old girl, and a couple of college students just casually finding bodies. You want to come down to the station? I don't blame them for being a little skeptical, but man, did that dude catch a little more than he wanted. At first, I wasn't really sure what it meant. I was like, oh, I'm worried about our characters having this weirdo follow us home. Turns out it was the police who had to worry the whole time, and just the way they continue to make the show so spooky but continue to do different things every time. I'm both as excited, if not pissed off, exploring this world, because on one hand, I'm like, why do I hurt myself? Why do I torture myself? Let alone, why does Keitaro torture himself? But goddamn, it's such a thrilling and exciting world to explore. How do you not get a kick out of a show and say that this is some of horror's best? And as I keep saying, it's my personal favorite horror anime that I've seen. We're not even going to get an ending by episode 25. It's an ongoing series, but I feel that convinced that I can put it that high up there. It's just such a good show. I'm just honestly impressed that this show remained pretty consistent overall, especially with like the fight that we had, like the filter and everything. Like it felt visually distinct. There was some really cool animation. Unfortunately, a little bit of my audio got corrupted. I was just saying before I had to re-record this, is that the filter that they used, it almost made it feel like we were pulled into hell without it being your typical everything's on fire. There's just something really interesting about the filter when everything was hitting the fan at the beginning of the episode. And just in general, the expressiveness of all the characters, especially on the facial reactions, just like Keitaro has been through, I swear to God, you could probably make a folder of at least 1,000 images. And while yes, a good majority will be similar to each other, the amount of expressions he's had to the bullshit over 22 episodes, you got a reaction meme for every day of the week, every day of the damn year, in my opinion. Like, that's how strongly I feel. But, good episode. Disturbing episode, made me feel like the Baddies episode, but let me know what you're feeling down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more Dark Gathering to the channel. Like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have Rocket No 9, Krillos, Adrian Anya, the big dog up in this bitch. I'm not even going to censor your name on that one. That's probably the best name I've ever seen. Rafa Banana, Some Guy Dude VG, and Min. So I appreciate the support. Please take care and have a good one.